On this week's full-time roundup, Manchester is still blue. Marseille fans take matters into their own hands. Inter go top in Serie A, and Bayern win a wild match. Full-time roundup starts right now. Welcome into this week's full-time roundup, the recap show. I'm Matt Gesslin, back in the host chair tonight. And of course, I'm joined as always by Daniel Brackett. Daniel, we had some historic fixtures this weekend, some interesting results, and a scene that is becoming, unfortunately, all too common this weekend. But first, how are you feeling on this Monday evening, Halloween Eve, no less? Are you still a costume person? And if so, what are you wearing this year?
Well, good to see you, Matt. Hope you had a good weekend. I am not really a Halloween guy.
I knew we were going to get along for some reason.
I'm not a really big holiday guy, just in general, honestly. I feel like people just blow those holidays way out of proportion. I've been called a Grinch before, blah, blah, blah. Don't really care. But I do have to dress up in the for my job tomorrow, so I got to kind of figure that out. So TBD. I might send a picture on our Twitter of what I decide to go with tomorrow, but yeah, that is TBD. How about you?
I am not. I've also been known a Grinch for my entire existence. I feel like holidays are not. I'm with you, to be completely full honesty. Christmas already, ornaments and stuff going up is insane. We're not even at Halloween yet, and Thanksgiving's in between. I do love the holidays, but I don't like how they get blown out of proportion. So
I'm the same way.
Yeah,
like I enjoy seeing family and everything.
Right.
Like, let's get that out of the way. But just how people treat holidays, I just think it's kind of weird with this like obsessive
couldn't agree more. And no costume for me. Those of you that know me well enough know that will never happen. So they don't even bother at this point. But on the other side, it is starting to kind of look, of course, holiday, fall, spooky season, Halloween, and all that stuff, everything that's going on. There is a part of town, not here, but in Manchester, that is looking like it's a little bit of spooky season. That's the red side. After the noisy neighbors, Daniel, come back in again and take out the Red Devils in 3-0 fashion in the Manchester Derby on Sunday. What were your takeaways from this one? Any thoughts that kind of glared at you? And Erling Haaland gets 2, Phil Foden gets the 3rd. Big guys that you expect to step up, but Manchester United they had nothing, no answer for Man City.
No, they did not, and we previewed this, and we expected a pretty significant result for Manchester City. I even called this a nuke play, so hope whoever listened to that decided to take Manchester City. But yeah, no, it's about what I expected. Could have been worse, honestly, for United. I do have to. They started out pretty good. It was pretty cagey for the first half, at least, and I don't even know if you can call this really a derby after the last 5 years or so, maybe more. But the selections of Evans over Varane, Lindelof over Reguilon at left back were just one of the few decisions Ten Hag made that were pretty questionable. And based off those decisions, I'm not really surprised of the result.
It's one of those things. You mentioned whether it's a derby, of course, it's still pretty competitive year in, year out. It's one of those games, like you even said, with Merseyside, you kind of throw the results or the form out the window. But in this instance, Manchester City just had too much firepower. And again, there's just so much going on with Manchester United. You kind of expected it. Man City, I don't even think really got to all gears in this one and still put 3 on the board. So it's hard. It's a tough time. You want to, coming off another match that we'll get to later on, you were hoping and building for an amazing weekend of derbies and some of the biggest fixtures in the world going on at the same time. But this one just fell flat, and it felt flat going into it. You kind of expected it to be one-sided, like we talked about. And for me, it was almost like a throwaway game. I didn't even get a chance to really watch it because I knew kind of what the result was going to be. So I took care of some things on Sunday that I was expecting to take care of on Saturday. But, how Johnny Evans gets to start over Varane, I don't quite understand. Lindelof over Reguilon. There's just some things in the back, and that's kind of where the problems lie for Manchester United. We talked about them earlier in the season. And then, of course, in the midfield, it's Anthony going up against Doku, and Anthony again looks really, really poor. That's another performance that he just doesn't deliver on in a big fixture. And you pay 80 million pounds for him, and he's supposed to be one of those players, and he hasn't really delivered. Take aside all the stuff that is happening off the field for him, and whether or not he should play there. I don't have enough of the details to understand the real dynamics there, but it's just a crazy environment at Manchester United. Just never can kind of get settled, and you wonder again if how much of that is on the manager, how much of that plays into the team selection, how much of that gets back onto the field at the end of the day. So I don't really know what to make of Manchester United. We talked about how they continue to just kind of churn out results, and maybe you just kind of say, okay, you can see the 3 points to Manchester City here, and go back on trying to beat up and steal points from everywhere else. I just don't know what to make of Manchester United right now.
Other one word for me, just disaster, top to bottom. You spoke of Anthony, 80 million. He's been pretty bad. And we're not even talking about Sancho, who's not banished from the first team. He was another $75 billion winger who's flopped. And we've seen a lot of those throughout the years since Alex Ferguson left. So, we've hit on this a lot with United, just how much of a disaster they are as a club. And the sooner the Glazers sell, the better for Manchester United fans. So just hang in there, guys, and one day you'll be okay.
Yeah, still sit 8th on the table, so they're still kind of in the discussion for European football, and only a couple points behind Brighton and Newcastle for 6th and things like that. So there's still a lot to play for. Of course, they're still in the cup, which will be midweek this week against Newcastle, so a big game there for them. I don't think we need to harp too much on Manchester City. We've talked about them, and just kind of they'll be a storyline that we'll see all year long. Of course, though, a team that needed a good performance and came at a really good time against a team that they definitely took advantage of was Arsenal, beating up on Sheffield 5-0. Of course, again, Sheffield have not scored a win on the season. And after a lackluster performance against Chelsea, and then a pretty good midweek fixture in the Champions League, but they could have used these 3 points in the fashion they got it. Eddie Nketiah gets a hat trick as well, and some rotation with Emile Smith-Rowe getting back into the lineup. So Arsenal take care of business. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, not many conclusions to draw off of, and other than that, Sheffield is probably going to be the worst team in the Premier League, unless Everton get those points deducted, which we don't really know yet. I did, in full transparency, take a wager probably a month and a half ago that Sheffield would be the bottom team to go down. So I'm really hoping that FFP doesn't kill Everton too badly here. But yeah, Sheffield's keeper is atrocious. One of the worst goalkeepers I think I've ever seen in the Premier League, and the squad's awful. You can prevent as many goals as possible from open play, but when you're conceding off 2 corners and you give up a penalty, like what do you? You're just being yourself at that point. So I don't even really care to go over this game too much. It was kind of just an easy win for Arsenal. And you would think that Sheffield could have made it maybe a little better of a game.
Yeah, again, and there's not much here, like you mentioned. I think it's, like I said, good timing for Arsenal to get a squad like Sheffield to get some confidence, get some rotation in, and kind of get ready for that next leg of fixtures that they'll have coming up, a pretty big run. And then again, quickly before you know it, Champions League will be back. But a team that Daniel, I know, has surprised us, and a team worth talking about now, no doubt about it, is Tottenham Hotspur, who still sit atop the table, Premier League. They do get a scrappy win against Palace, on the road, no less, which is always a tough. Selhurst is never an easy place to play. They played on Friday as well after a game on Monday, so a quick turnaround for them. But they get a big 3 points, and again, Spurs at this point in the season atop the table. You would not have thought to say it with Arsenal right behind them. It's a North London 1-2, which makes me sick to my stomach, but that'll hopefully change over time. But we've talked about it a little bit, but I think we kind of need to do a little bit deeper dive into Spurs now that they've gotten 10 games in, and really they just continue to keep chugging along.
Yeah, if you told North London fans probably a decade to 7 years ago that they'd be topping the Premier League table fighting after one another in 2023, they probably would have thought you're crazy. So hey, that's always cool, and that shows that teams can evolve, and not every year is guaranteed, and for other big teams, as we've seen some demises and talked about it. But yeah, no, Son continues to cook. James Madison continues to cook. They went up 2, and Palace ended up getting a goal later and kind of made it a match at the end. It was pretty nervy. But these were the type of matches where the old Tottenham would have conceded and gave up 2 points, and they didn't. So I think Vicario, the goalkeeper, has been excellent this season so far. Replacing Lloris is no easy job, and we've seen other goalkeepers in the Premier League fail to replace their compatriots. So good vibes for Tottenham. They keep winning. Ange Postecoglou is at this rate probably going to get manager of the season, which he should. And not only do they play pretty football, but they've been pretty tight at the back too. So hopefully, fingers crossed for no injuries across that front line, because if Son goes down or Madison goes down, they're in big trouble there. But they also are starting to get kind of healthy and getting subs to step up, like what's his name from Forest? Give me a second. Brendan Johnson came in and had an assist immediately, which is good to see. Pedro Porro looks great. So not only new coach, but all these signings that they made in the summer have kind of hit the ground running. So that's good to see.
Yeah, and one of the things that people mentioned, and I think I wanted to touch on it early on. I don't want to put too much emphasis on it because there's a long season to go. They don't have European football, right? And I think one of the things that people were talking about is, can this team, myself included, and I still, bread's in the pudding. It's not there yet, but can this team go all the way? Can they make that run? Can they sustain this form? And you look at a team, and again, the rosters are night and day different, but the situation is kind of the same. You look at a team like Leicester, right? When they won the title, everyone said they can't keep going. They can't keep winning. All they did was win in, week out. They had no European football as well. They went right from Saturday to Saturday, or at that time, Saturday to Saturday. So, that's something to keep an eye out for, especially now that they're out of the domestic cup. Really, all they have to play for is the Premier League. But like you said, they have to stay healthy. And if they can stay healthy, I think, they have a really tough run of fixtures coming up. Take away the Chelsea game, which is always a tough match as a derby. And then they go, to Wolves, which we saw was not easy.
Nope.
They have Aston Villa after that, Manchester City, followed by West Ham and Newcastle. So the next 6 matches are going to really be a good true test for Ange Postecoglou and his squad. But so far so good, Daniel, and a team right behind them that's still fighting for that, that top spot, only 3 points back, is Liverpool, who do get you don't have to go into your game again. We'll have one more chance at them, but you guys get a nice, comfortable win this weekend. And again, in the catbird seat almost, essentially, in the title race.
Yeah, I'm liking our chances a lot to challenge and go all the way in most competitions this year. This is the most depth we've had in a very, very long time. And you see some rotation. You also see the togetherness of the squad. Jota scores and holds up the Luis Diaz jersey, as his father, or his parents actually, were both kidnapped. Both have been returned safely as of yesterday, from what I saw on Twitter. But yeah, no, it's good to see keeping a clean sheet. That's been a problem for us. So it's good to see that we kind of righted the ship there and have some big matches coming up. So we do play Bournemouth midweek. So that should be a fairly easy affair. But hey, I'm enjoying it. Szoboszlai with 2 assists. These look so good. The midfield rebuild has looked great, and all 6 strikers are firing at the moment. So that's a pretty scary feat for most teams that have to play us.
You mentioned enjoying it at the moment. Another manager and team that's enjoying it at the moment is Aston Villa. They, Daniel, have really been playing some nice football, secure for the moment, they're placing fifth in the league. 5 points clear of Newcastle, who drew at Wolves, and Brighton, who drew at Fulham. So that's Unai Emery is just taking what he does best, and we saw it at Villarreal and other places. Of course, was at Arsenal in the past. But this squad is for real. They're the real deal, and they currently sit fifth, like I said, with an outside shot at the top four, although you would probably expect them a little bit too little this year. But they're kind of that next tier and the next team to look out for, right?
No, couldn't agree more. They're unbeaten at home, and I think it's double digits. So Unai Emery's got the boys humming. They did play Luton, so let's not overreact here. But Newcastle dropping points to Wolves was a pretty big result for them, and they can kind of not focus on the league, but they feel a lot safer now and can kind of focus a little bit more on that Europa Conference League. Now, Matt, I know you just blocked it out, but I do want to touch on Chelsea's performance to Brentford. You guys lose 2-0, the last goal coming in the 96th minute when Robert Sanchez kind of went up for a corner. Any quick firing comments on this?
Pretty much what you'd expect from Brentford. Play in the block, have a team come and chase them, and then counter. It's exactly what you saw. That goal from Pinnock in the second half to start it was two defensive mistakes. Also what you would expect from us right now. Cucurella can't get beat on that first ball, and then DeCeece and who's Madueke, they can't figure out the back post, and that's the game right there. Doesn't matter whatever happens the rest of the way. Brentford knew exactly how they're going to play this match, and they played it to perfection. The second goal doesn't matter. Anyone could have done that. Wouldn't have made a difference. So yeah, I'd say 1-0. I mean, we started off tremendous. 25 minutes in, dominating the match. Looked like we were going to put 4 behind, and didn't get one. Sounds about, if you haven't heard Chelsea before, sounds about right. And so, that's exactly what happened. And once you give Brentford the opportunity to grow into the game, and their system and style is working, they don't have to come out and attack you, and they can play that block as long as they need to. And like I said, work to perfection. So a lot to work on from our perspective. Again, I love what I was seeing, but you got to put the ball in the back of the net. And until that changes, Chelsea are still going to be right where they are. And that's just the nature of the beast. And Nkunku looks like he's coming back, and probably maybe after the November break, which will be fantastic news, a little earlier than expected. But now we've kind of built this guy up to be Superman. So let's see what he can do. But, I think we're still a little ways out. I still stand by where I said, probably 7th to 10th with an outside shot at 6th. But again, the team looked good, just didn't put the ball in the net, and it cost us. And, that's just the nature of the game. You have to put the ball in the back of the net if you want to win, and we didn't do it. And Daniel, we weren't the only ones who didn't put the ball in the back of the net. West Ham did not score against Everton, who get a surprise big 3 points. Is it safe to say that they are finally out of the relegation battle, or will they still kind of be up for discussion? Let's take the point reduction possibility aside, because we don't know what's going to happen. We've been talking that they were kind of teetering on that bottom half. Are they still there, or for you, are they kind of clear?
Results can be so fickle. Probably like a month and a half ago, we were saying if he doesn't turn this around right now, then he's a goner. After they got thumped by someone, but I think with Deitch and the squad that they have, they can keep the squad happy and confident. Then I do think that they'll be okay. They also need Calvert-Lewin to stay healthy, because when he can score goals like he did against West Ham, that definitely helps. And he's just had awful injury luck this past couple of years, and I actually rate him pretty highly when he can stay healthy. So I'm not worried too much about Everton right now. West Ham have dropped 2 in a row now, so this should be very interesting to see how this whole thing plays out in the next couple of weeks. But wanted to talk about another team who is in the relegation discussion is Bournemouth. Beat Burnley 2-1. Big relegation scrap right here, and Vincent Kompany's men continue to lose. Yeah,
you hate to see it. We really thought that they were going to I thought they were going to be a team that was stronger than this. Of course, you mentioned Bournemouth getting the win and out of the bottom half, so it's a big win for them. A team, switching gears, who also got a big win. I don't know how I would define this as a big win. It was more of a weird win. Let's just put it that way. Daniel was in the Bundesliga, and Bayern Munich get 3 points against Darmstadt. Harry Kane scores a goal from midfield. Other 3 red cards in the first half. I mean, this game had it all. If you wanted to see anything happen in a soccer match, this was the game to watch. Of course, Bayern put on the afterburners and win 8-0. Not much to really take away from this one, right?
No, literally zero takeaways other than Darmstadt were in the driver's seat for a good 10 minutes when Joshua Kimmich gets sent off. I'm like, oh my gosh, is this the day that Bayern dropped points? And then 2 consecutive red cards kind of iced that. So it finished 0-0 at halftime. I do want to make that note. So they scored 8 in the second half. And it was just pathetic. But literally, I have no takeaways from that match. Just really odd game. Spooky season.
Spooky season. And games when you expect Harry Kane to pad his stats, maybe that's all we take away from it. He gets the hat trick. And like I said, a crazy half field goal, which you love seeing, but just a strange one all around. A not so strange one because we've talked about them being a little bit more of a contender, sleeper team, and had a strong performance last year was Freiburg, who Daniel gave your Bayer Leverkusen all they could handle, but Bayer still takes the win 2-1, and they maintain atop the Bundesliga with, of course, our Borussia Dortmund dropping points and RB Leipzig getting some results, and then of course the big one, Stuttgart losing to Hoffenheim. So they're kind of starting to maybe feel the pressure of being second place, and Bayern jumped them. So any thoughts from the Leverkusen match or any of the other games within the top 4, or is it kind of what you expected?
My darling Leverkusen. You haven't had to see them win scrappy very often this year. They've been pretty well positioned in most matches, so it was good to see that they could see out a win. Really, all I have to say about that game is Florian Wirtz was unplayable, really unplayable. His one solo goal was one of the more impressive goals I've seen, and there's 3 youngsters in the Bundesliga: Musiala, Wirtz, and Xavi Simons, and God, those 3 are going to be such good players, and all 3 were on it this weekend. Another one, Leipzig crushed Köln 6-0. Köln is in the relegation zone, so very concerning for them. Very historic club. They went down a couple years ago too, so I'd like to see them stay up. But Openda, Simons, Sesko off the bench. What really more can you say? And that Dortmund game was pretty good. I was watching it with a Dortmund fan, and I think he declared them dead and then alive 3 separate times. So that was a fun one to watch with a Dortmund fan just sweating that game out.
Typical Dortmund, right? We talked about it before with their performances, and not only in the league, but Bundesliga and also Champions League. And but they, again, it was a thriller, no doubt about it. 3-3 goals in both halves. Dortmund go down, come back. Late equalizer from Julian Brandt, who we both are very high on and has had a resurgence, it seems like. And then, they get the draw. And so they still haven't lost yet this year.
Yeah.
But they continue to just kind of ease their way through, and they sit currently in 3rd place, a couple points back and still in the mix. So it's an interesting battle. Of course, on the other end of the spectrum, Daniel is the relegation zone, like you touched on earlier. Another team that we've touched on, and the troubles continue for them, is Union Berlin, who just, I don't know what they can do at this point. They just cannot get a result that will help them turn things around. But they are not at the bottom, but kind of part of just the broader conversation. They're only 2 points clear of total relegation, and then 1 point out of that playoff spot. So what is kind of going on with Union Berlin, and can they right the ship, or is this over?
The new excuse me. You'll probably see a new coach going within the next couple weeks. They might wait till international break to do that, but I would imagine they're going to have to do something soon to spark something from these players and get a result. Another game I wanted to touch on was the Bochum Mainz tie 2-2. It was a pretty wild game on Friday. Both are in the relegation zone, and Bochum go up 2-1 in Mainz. Literally the last second of the game scores an equalizer, and you just see the Bochum heads go down. So Bundesliga has not disappointed this year. It's been a great watch, and we haven't really touched on many relegation scraps, but I thought that matchup was very intriguing.
Yeah, anytime there's a 6-pointer, we're going to talk about it. Any league, no matter what it is, it's a big matchup for those teams at the bottom. So it was a great game. Like you said, heads down. You hope that Bochum can kind of turn it around, and those 3 points that the 2 points they dropped at the end there isn't going to come back to haunt them. But you got a chance against the bottom teams. When you're a bottom team, you got to take advantage of it. The bigger question, and of course, surprisingly to myself, Daniel, is that the 2 promoted teams are not even in this conversation. Darmstadt, who we just touched on, who absolutely got obliterated by Bayern Munich, but that's to be expected, and they're still clear. And then Heidenheim, who have a tough match against Borussia Mönchengladbach, who's always tough. We've talked about that before. The question is, from my perspective, or from my question to you, is do both of these teams stay up? Or, they're starting to kind of fall back towards, they're on the edge of the bubble. They're 13th and 14th, Heidenheim and Darmstadt respectively. Can they keep it up, or are we looking at, one of those 2 teams falling down?
They're regressing to the mean, both of them, but I do like Heidenheim's chances more than I like Darmstadt. So should be interesting to watch. Definitely keep an eye on it. But it really is up to Union Berlin, Cologne, Mainz, Bochum, if they can kind of catch lightning in a bottle. And we see a lot of these kind of results at the end of the season back against the wall. So, but, every point matters so much in these relegation scraps. So it's going to be a very interesting race.
Well, 2 teams that are nowhere near the bottom, nor will they ever really be near the bottom, and arguably is the greatest match on planet Earth for football, although some will disagree, and I'm happy to have that conversation with any of those 2 folks, is El Clasico. And Daniel, this one did not disappoint either on Saturday. Of course, we're talking about Real Madrid and Barcelona. Barcelona playing in Montjuïc, which is not their normal stadium, which I think played a little bit of a factor into it. But there was also another player, another impact moment and performance that we definitely need to get to. But first, your straight takeaways from El Clasico, and didn't disappoint from my perspective again.
It could have been a little bit of a better match. I mean, it ended with a very dramatic win for Real Madrid, but Barca looked like they were in the driver's seat for 60 minutes of this match. So I'm sure Xavi's kind of kicking himself, and they didn't start I actually texted you before, and I said I actually like Madrid with the starting lineups that came out. But, Lewandowski off the bench, Rafinha off the bench. Rafinha didn't look match sharp coming off the bench, but, it's a tough one to swallow. Real Madrid kind of just ended up absorbing all that pressure and then kind of releasing it. I will say, I think that Camavinga substitution was the pivotal moment. I thought he looked fantastic. Even at left back, he completely changed the match. And Jude with an absolute rocket, and then he's just same shit, different day, in the right place at the right time. Just a nice little tap in for him. I mean, I wish I could have this kid's luck, because the ball just seems to gravitate towards him in the box, and he scores 2 crucial goals in the title race.
Yeah, you mentioned the ball just finding him. Sometimes you get in that zone and that form and that luck, and we've all been there in whatever sport you've played where things just happen for you. And I mean, this is the ultimate, all the things that can happen for you. 10 goals in 10 league games, 13 goals in 13 games. I mean, how much more can we say about him? To your point, to take it a little further step back, Barcelona absolutely dominated 60% of this game. No doubt about it. You mentioned the 60 minutes. They were all over Real Madrid and just kind of pressed them. And Real Madrid really didn't have an answer at first. And everything down that right-hand side, João Cancelo was turning guys inside out. I completely agree with you that the Camavinga sub completely changed, made a big moment in the match as far as changing it up and kind of getting that right-hand side pressure stopped and the ball kind of, not necessarily floating down that side the whole way. I also think that Lewandowski, when he came in, was a little bit rusty. Same with Rafinha. You could see some touches that were just, right off the shin or just not great touches, and then transitioned. And that's when the game kind of started to change, right? When Barcelona made some turnovers and Real Madrid was able to counter, and basically in transition was starting to kind of move the ball up the pitch. And then, what can you say? Jude just changes the game. And once that goal went in, you felt it. You knew something was going to happen. The crowd got quieter. The Barcelona players tightened up a little bit. You could feel that Madrid was coming for a while. And then, of course, they get the late winner. But we talked about it. I said Barcelona would have been very happy with a 1-1 draw in this one after, who was not playing. And it looked like they were going to get it. It looked like even better. It looked like they were going to get the 3 points, which you could have even had a moment of just pure jubilation if you were Barcelona for having that roster and beating Real Madrid, right? And they shut down Jude Bellingham pretty easy, and they looked in control. And then Jude just does his thing, and all of a sudden you go from Barca being top to Barca being fourth, and in some serious trouble now, as far as just getting players back, and who's ahead of them. Girona continues to win, and they're still ahead of Barcelona. Atletico Madrid win, and they have a game in hand. So things are starting to get a little dire for Barcelona. Of course, you have Champions League, and this is a long way from over. But El Clasico was a huge moment in the season, and it's always going to come down to this matchup and the La Liga, or this matchup, and when both Real Madrid and Barcelona play Atletico. Those are the 6 matches. When those 3 teams play each other, that decides the league. And right now Real Madrid is a 1-1. Barcelona 0-1.
Yep. And it's the biggest bragging rights to date in Spain. So it was pretty even breakdown between, as we broke down our predictions, with who's won and who hasn't won the last 5. So I'm sure Real Madrid are gonna enjoy that win, but stay focused as they are top of the league. And as you mentioned, Girona are second, Atletico are third with the game in hand, and then Barca are in fourth. So another big game, different country. We go to Italy now, as this game was kind of like what we said, almost Mourinho masterclass, but Inter do edge out Roma in a scrappy 1-0 win.
I was close. I had a 0 in there, so I knew one of that was coming.
Yeah, and Thuram, we kind of highlighted his importance for this Inter squad as of late, and he comes up in the 80th minute with the winner. But there were chances for both, and we did say this game, 1-0, scrappy. So we were correct on that end, which is always nice. And Inter now have a 2-point lead on everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, that Milan derby matchup is going to maybe be the ultimate factor in this season. Of course, AC just dropped points to Napoli as well. And so, you're starting to see it, and we talked about it. You brought it up, and it's something to keep an eye out. Can Milan win big games? You're starting to show me, right? And so you're starting to see kind of what that trend looks like, and it's
went up 2. They
went
up 2 goals. That's the thing that sucks about it, is Giroud scored. He kind of ended his streak, and they look like they were in the driver's seat. And then, next thing you know, Napoli are tied up, going for the winner.
Yeah, and so that's it's going to come down to those types of games. And of course, now they not only do they tie, they get jumped. Juventus, who get a late winner, they go to second. So we had talked all this season, Daniel, about it being a Milan battle, and maybe Juventus is starting to sneak in there, and don't look out. And Atalanta now are up to 4th, and Serie A is starting to get a little tighter than we thought. Of course, Inter, we're setting the pace a little bit, but it's a tighter race than we thought. And Napoli, now even Napoli's kind of in it. You don't count them out, who won it last year, of course, and players still not back from injury. So Serie A is really, really tight, and of course, there's a match going on right now as we speak, and Fiorentina and Lazio playing, and Fiorentina can move up to 3rd or 4th, if they get a win. So this is just becoming a really, like you said, with Liga, Liga, Serie A is becoming a lot of fun as well to keep an eye out for.
Oh, it is, and that Lazio Fiorentina in the 80th minute, 0-0 right now. So just to give you guys an update of where we're recording, so. To rotate over to the rest of the world, there were a few matches in a couple different leagues we wanted to highlight today. PSG win late So, Mbappe with 2 goals and Warren Zaire with an absolute screamer. We highlighted him last week, and he drops another dime performance. And they are only second to Nice after Nice win another scrappy 1-0 game. But I mean, who would have thought Nice would be at this at number 1 at this point in the year?
Not anyone that I knew that follows Liga, and that's not many people. But Nice are a very good squad. Clearly, they've got something going on, and it's going to be a tight. We talked about PSG, of course. We both feel we'll catch them, and they're only a point behind. But it's a nice story. If Nice can finish, top 4, of course, they've got Monaco, who they jumped with the win, and Lille, who did beat Monaco right behind them in 4th. So first through 4th in let's say 2nd through 4th in Ligue 1 are separated by 3 points right now. So it's going to be, a battle for 2nd, which it usually is. And sometimes, maybe PSG will slip up and one of these teams will give them a fight all the way through. But, it's an interesting dynamic and a lot of storylines to keep an eye on in France there. And of course, Daniel, one of the bigger storylines of the weekend, along with all the matches going on, is just some ugliness that came out of Marseille. Marseille-Lyon gets canceled. Of course, if you haven't seen the story yet, the Marseille fans attacked the Lyon bus and threw rocks at it. And actually, the manager of Lyon got hit in the head with a rock and had to be, treated by medical personnel. And just a really scary situation. If for those of you geographically that don't know Marseille and Lyon, they're not separated too far apart in France. And it's a Marseille is a crazy little place down in the south of France. It's just one of those cities that you just kind of don't really want to go and hang around. And I've been around it. And like I said, there's the story that I can tell you is I was driving. My dad was driving. We were on the wrong side of the road, or not the road, but how you drive there. You have to, if you're in the right,
the normal way.
If you're the left, no, in our way. If you're in the left lane, it's the passing lane. It's what you only use it for, and the right lane and everything else is for slow driver. Well, we didn't know that. Well, my dad didn't know that. He was talking to me. Long story short, we were sitting in the left lane, and a Marseille fan, clearly you could tell, he had a Marseille flag in the back and Marseille plates, came and literally tried to run us off the road just for being, and cursed at us and gave us the finger and literally tried to veer us off the road, off the highway. And that's just kind of what you get in Marseille. It's just a crazy place, a beautiful city, beautiful people, beautiful food, but craziness. But this is beyond crazy, and this is not acceptable. And honestly, I love the sport of football. I love everything it brings, what it does. It unifies people and just the everything that comes with it. But this is not okay, and this is not something that I want to see in the sport at all. It's been too often this year. We talked about the issues at Ajax with their fans and fans throwing things on the field consistently. This is not the only 2 times it's happened. It's not the only year it's happened, but enough is enough. Let the guys play, have it out in the fans and in the stands, and they're chanting, and maybe you get into a fight in a bar after with the opposing fan, but stop throwing shit on the field, guys. Like let's just enjoy this. So it's a tough one. It's not something that you want to see, and it's not something that we want to see as fans of the sport, as a sport that we love. So that's my plea. Just stop throwing shit on the field and let's let the guys play.
I agree more. We love football because it sometimes can be kind of a lifestyle, but these players are people too, and I don't want my life threatened. They shouldn't have to feel like their life's threatened. And the more this happens, the more this becomes a reoccurring theme. And people might not want to play football or go to matches with all this, the scariness. So I'm not for this at all, and I hope it changes. But speaking of scary, excuse me, PSV absolutely kill Ajax. They might as well throw a rock at them. Ajax actually went up 2-1 at half, and I was like, damn, I didn't expect that. And PSV respond with 4 unanswered goals to beat them 5-2. Ajax are now dead last in the Eredivisie. Every week we ask, can they actually be relegated? It's starting to look like it actually might come
You're
to
getting there.
fruition.
You're getting there.
We're getting
aren't
there.
you?
I'm not there. I'm not yet. I'm not yet calling it. But they might have to have that Undertaker meme come out at some point because they are almost dead and buried at this point, and they better be careful because if they keep digging this hole, then it could get ugly for them.
It could. It looks like they do have a new manager potentially, or at least have an interim manager for now. So that's going to be an interesting one. But boy, I'm there. I know you'll get there eventually. I think they're down, but we'll see what happens. And on the flip side, a team that is not down, and of course, like we mentioned, we will start to cover a few other leagues here along the way. And one of the leagues that we want to add this week is Liga MX. Of course, Club America is at the top of that, 5 points clear of Tigres. And one of the big highlights as well is Alejandro Sendejas, who's a U.S. men's national team player who has 4 goals and 3 assists in 12 appearances. So absolutely crushing it down there for Club Americas. And they sit atop the table. They've been a perennial team, of course, domestically for Liga MX for a long, long time. And Daniel, of course, that also is a nice segue into the other North American league that we touched on last week. And of course, we have a team here locally in Charlotte that we both keep an eye on for, and that is Charlotte FC in the MLS. And we mentioned MLS playoffs have started. There was some interesting dynamic games, some upsets. I don't know if I would call that other one an upset, but a lot of the favorites take home a 1-0 series lead in best of 3 games.
Yeah, no, it was the home favorites almost completely clean sweep here, other than St. Louis, which was a little bit surprising, especially in the manner that they lost. They got killed, but no, as Red Bulls knocked us out, it was nice to see them get thumped by Cincy, who are arguably the favorites, maybe other than LAFC, who ran it up 5-2 against Vancouver. So I think the matches that are going to be really interesting are the away fixtures for these favorites, because MLS seems to a lot of home teams win and a lot of road teams lose. So it should be interesting to see if some teams can kind of wrap up this series quicker and have some more rest than other teams. I think that will matter because there's a lot of games going on in this congested window for MLS teams. So it should be pretty interesting. But are you confident enough to pick a winner here?
In all these series? In all the series?
Yeah, we can just do rapid fire.
All right, we can do rapid fire. There's also 2 games tonight, by the way, just a heads up. Orlando City against Nashville and Seattle Sounders versus FC Dallas. But of the 5 games that happened this weekend, I'll go real quick, rapid fire. Philly, Cincy, KC, Real Salt Lake, LAFC. I do think Kansas City will take out St. Louis.
Okay, I'm actually going to agree with you all the way down till Houston. I think Houston is a very good team, and I think they will win. And just real quick, predict your winner for the whole thing.
That's tough. I'll go Cincy. They've been the best team all season.
I want to agree with you on that one, but just to kind of deviate so we can have some fun with this, I'm going to say LAFC catch form here and win it all.
If they do catch form, they're probably the best top to bottom team in the MLS, but Cincy's been the best team all season, so we'll see if they can continue it. Of course, we'll keep an eye on this. We'll keep an eye on all the domestic games and everything else that's going on. In the meantime, Daniel, I know we need a quick break in, and of course, feel free to interact with us on X at Full-Time Roundup. Please download and like our podcast anywhere you get your podcasts, and you leave us a 5-star rating. Of course, also just keep in mind, this is the recap show, so we will have 2 episodes each week, Monday recording or Sunday recording, depending on if there's games on Monday. Distributed on Monday or Tuesday will be the recap show. And then on Thursday will be our prediction and Daniel's best bets. So no bets today. But again, catch those on Thursday going forward as well. And Daniel will have his best bets on Thursday. But on the other side of the break, we will dive into our players of the week, as well as one hot topic, Daniel, that we wanted to touch on that is near and dear to our hearts, and it is coming home, as some of them might say. So stick around. We'll be right back at the other side of the break. And welcome back to the Full-Time Roundup. As we mentioned before the break, Daniel, there is something that is on our minds that we've been talking about We talked about it in multiple forums. We actually talked about it directly in the last episode. If you haven't listened to that episode, go check it out, our midweek episode last week. But since then, there's been a development, and need no introduction here. The Charlotte Independents went on to beat the Omaha team. I'm not even going to call them anything else. Just going to call them Omaha. Omaha Union, of course, is what they're called. And Charlotte went to Omaha, the best team in USL 1, and got the W in penalties. Now, on the same night, right afterwards, up in Cary, North Carolina, NCFC took on North Colorado Hailstorm, and they won their match. So what that means is on November 5th in Cary, North Carolina, I will physically be there. The Charlotte Independents will take on NCFC for the USL 1 league title. Now, keep in mind, folks, Daniel is a part-time NCFC fan. Charlotte has not won a professional sports title. And so Charlotte Independence has a chance to bring home one of the first sports titles in professional sports in the city of Charlotte. Daniel, I don't know where to start here because you're going to I think you're going to go back and forth. You may become an Independence fan before the end of this episode. Who knows? If they win, I feel like you'll be on this bandwagon too.
No, I don't think so. So I did a little breakdown. All time, both teams have won 8 and drew 2. They are 1-1-1 this year. Independence scraped by. They were absolutely dominated on the stat sheet from what I saw. I did not actually watch the match, but they went to pens and they did win. So good for Independence. Congratulations. But that doesn't mean anything anymore. You're at a final, and NCFC are in fine form. They have multiple attackers and midfielders who have over 10 goal contributions. So I kind of want to make a wager on this match. It doesn't have to be finance either. It could be like something else, like, I don't know, loser shaves their head or something. It's like fun. But can you think of anything that we can do to make this a little tense?
Well, we'll have to think of something. Of course, I don't want to jinx my team. Anytime I put a bet on it, automatically means they're going to lose. So we'll have to think of something. I'll think of it. For the guys that are listening, don't worry. I will make sure that you guys have every advantage over NCFC as possible. So it won't be too much of a wager here. But again, I'm going. I know a couple of other folks here in town are going. It's going to be a fun environment up there. You guys have always had great crowds, and you guys definitely did dominate. I caught a little bit of the game after our game just to see what was going on there in case we could have the potential of going up to North Carolina. And by the time I turned it on, you guys were up 2-0 already. So it looked pretty good. And of course, it's going to be a great matchup. And any predictions? Do we want to just put a score line on it before we even have a wager? We can put the wager on Twitter. But how about a score line here on the show? I'm
going to go 2-1 NCFC.
I'm going to go 1-0 Independence.
All right.
In extra time.
In extra time. Okay. And fun fact, the coach for NCFC, Bradford, was an academy coach when I was kind of going through the ranks. So he actually, after Dave Sarachun, ex-U.S. national team coach, left NCFC, he got kind of promoted within the club, and he started pretty bad. NCFC had some turbulent seasons when I was in college, but to see us return and look really good this year is definitely a positive, and it should be a great final. So I'm going to look forward to tuning in, and now we got that out of the way. We will have some sort of a fun competition going for this, so we'll post that on Twitter. And now is our favorite segment, XI of the week. Do you want to start us off, Matt?
I do, yeah. So at goalkeeper, we have Chevalier from Lille, who had 6 saves and a clean sheet. Can't go wrong when you do that. From defensively, we had DeMarcos, who had 1 goal. Pinnock, who had a goal for Brentford against Chelsea, which we talked about, and Mizraoui, who had 2 assists in the Bayern Munich match. So in the back, pretty strong. How about midfield and attackers, Daniel?
My dear Szoboszlai, 2 assists. He's just been so good. One of the signings of the season for sure. Verts, 1 goal and an assist. I mean, what can you say? And Zaire Emery with another goal. He's so good for being so young. And then Julian Brandt with 1 goal, and he's just been in lightning form and kind of resurrected his Dortmund career. So Haven't really got to talk about him that much, but I'm happy for him. In the attack, I have Holland with 2 goals in the Manchester derby, Marmouche for Freiburg with 2 goals, who looked like prime Ronaldo against BVB, and Giroud, 2 goals, been kind of on a cold streak, and you can see him wiping off his jersey like the weights from that goal streak. And hey, he's a hell of a striker, but he's also a hell of a goalie. So hey, you gotta play the field both ways. And for player of the week, I chose Nketiah. He's been kind of the backup striker for Arsenal, but he came and scored a wonderful hat trick. But who's your player of the week?
Does it need any introduction? Jude. Hey, Jude, put the cape on. Let's go. I'll even go next. I'll go right into this. Young player of the week, Jude Bellingham as well. I know we've talked about him at nauseum, and it's so unbelievable what he's doing. It's also hard to keep in mind that he's still only 20 years old. So he doesn't act like it, but at 20, that still counts for me as a young player of the week. And when you scored 2 goals in El Clasico, anything you can put your name on, you're getting it in my book. So young player of the week, Jude Bellingham, wrap it up.
Yeah, if he doesn't stop playing so well, he might become the king of Spain or something soon.
Never know.
Yeah, you never know. Young player of the week for me, I have Matthias Sule on loan from Juve, but he's playing for Frosinone. He's had 5 goals and 1 assist in 8 matches. He's 20 years old, Argentinian. Had a nice 2 goals this week, and he's just been in fantastic form. So love to see it. And I will be doing a recap of my best bets on our preview show on Thursday. But we did have a profitable week, so just tune in for that.
You mentioned the preview show on Thursday. Daniel will be giving his review of how he did last week, as well as give you those new bets for this week. So again, just for those new listeners, or if you skipped through the episode, we'll have 2 shows going forward. We'll have a Sunday show or a Monday show, the recap show, and we'll break down all the games across the league. And then Thursday will be our prediction and preview, as well as Daniel's best bets. So Daniel, it's been a great episode. We covered a lot. I love, catching up with you, jumping around the horn and seeing what's out there. Of course, you can follow us and be part of the conversation. Let us know what our XI was, if you had anything different, over on X at Full-Time Roundup. You can also follow Daniel at Liverpool CLTFC and myself at Life of M. Gesslin on X. Please download and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a 5-star rating. And of course, until Thursday, we will see you then.